Alright guys, if you want to learn how to paint these flowers just using one watercolor brush and no blending brush, then keep on watching this video. So before we begin, I'm just gonna make my paper texture visible in this group format. So I have 5 paper textures in my watercolor kit if you download that. And for this to work, you have to make sure you're placing the layer right underneath that paper texture group. So I'm using my own brush pack for this video, and the brush I'm using is soft smudge brush, also known as watercolor line art brush. The reason why I'm using this brush is because of its pressure control. When you're putting more pressure, you're gonna get more pigmentation. When you're putting light pressure, you're gonna get lighter pigmentation of the color. But the thing is, the transition from the darker color to the lighter color is so smooth that you wouldn't even have to blend it. Like it will blend itself almost. All right, so the first step is to start painting. And when I say start painting, is usually what I do in my paintings is I start with adding solid color and I take it as my base color. But in this video or in this painting, what you have to do is you have to start from adding the shadows and highlights itself. Why? Because we are using a brush which actually gives us that control. So I'm not going to be adding any solid base color. I'm just gonna start with the shadows and the highlights. By that I mean wherever you want darker color or shadow or more depth, you're gonna put more pressure into the screen, and wherever you want highlights or you want to highlight that part of the flower, you're gonna put less pressure onto the screen. Of course, if your flower has different colors, I will explain it just in a minute how to do that in a way where again it's very effortless. But in this case, the petals which are on the top for this flower, I'm painting it with this pink color only and not going to be adding any other color because these flowers usually tend to have the same color all across, and whatever the petals are behind or at the back of this flower, I'm going to be painting it with a darker color. Alright guys, so the petal where I wanted to include 2 colors, what I did first is I first of all went ahead with this pink color and I added a lighter version of it as in light pressure onto the screen, and then I started adding shadows, again more pressure onto the screen wherever I wanted shadow, and at the same time I kind of blended it with the lighter part of it so that it does not look crazy, it looks just effortless. So that is going to be the step number 1, and the step number 2 obviously is going to be to add the second color, and I just picked up that color and started adding it over the shadow because I wanted to add it over the shadow. I wanted to kind of build up the shadow, and in a way where I am mixing 2 colors, a lighter pink color and a darker pink color, if that makes any sense. So I just started adding it in the same way, the same technique, putting more pressure, light pressure, depending on if you want a shadow or if you want a highlight. And as you guys can see, it actually blended itself really well with the color I laid down initially. All right, it blended itself really well with that color. I'm going to be following the same process all across. I'm going to be painting all the petals in the same way using the same technique, and I will be back. Once I'm done with painting the petals, I am actually going to follow the same technique, the same process for the leaves as well. Again, going to be using mainly just one color, but I also did use this darker green color because the first color was looking a little bit dull, so I had to incorporate this second color. But again, the process is going to be similar. Again, if you're wanting to add more colors, just add first layer of first color and then add the second layer with a different color if you want to include 2 colors at the same time, and again they're just going to blend itself really nicely. To paint the branches of the flower, I actually did it in 3 steps. In the first go, I started putting light pressure just to fill it in with something, and then I went ahead again, and this time around again I was putting the same amount of pressure onto the screen, but because we already had color, it actually made it look a little darker in the second go. And in the third step, I made sure I am adding more pressure but a smaller sized brush so that at the same time I can add details here and there on the branches. And I also use this color on the branches which are on the petals itself. Again, there's nothing much to explain. At this point, I was just following my intuition and I was just adding shadows wherever I felt that I should be putting shadows. And by shadows, I mean just putting more pressure. Now, once all that is done, what you want to do, you want to pick up the hard edge brush. I'm going to be using it as a line art brush, and I reduce the size of the brush. I'm using the same color I used to paint branches of this whole flower thingy. And then I'm just going to use this brush to outline. Now, I'm not going to outline the whole thing. I'm going to be leaving some parts of the drawing here and there where I'm not going to be outlining completely. I'm going to be barely touching the screen so that the outline does not come out as prominent, because I just don't want this painting to have this cartoonish look. I just really wanted to have this realistic kind of look. So that is why I'm making sure I'm not outlining each and every thing completely. And I'm also going to be using the same color to actually outline the leaves as well. All right, so I'm just going to do that. I'm also going to be outlining like really lightly the little veiny kind of thing on the petals. I know those are not veins. I don't know what you call them. I don't know the terminology for it, but I hope you got what I'm trying to say. I outlined those really lightly again using the same brush. Once I was happy with the outlines, as you guys can see, the outlines are really light in nature. What I did, I started joining these vein kind of things on the petals with the branches so that it looks like it's stemming out of the branch itself. All right, and to do so, what I did, I actually made sure that the vein part of the petal is the darkest where it's actually meeting the branch. I hope that makes sense. As you guys can see right here, I'm adding more color, more darkness to the part of the vein where it's actually connecting itself with the branch so that it looks that it's coming out of that branch, if that makes any sense. And I did actually add some sort of darkness here and there as well where it's not really touching the branch itself. I did add the darkness here and there, but mainly my focus was to add this darkness, this pigmentation where the vein was close to the branch. And that's what I did. Again, really simple, really easy. Just follow your intuition. At this moment, I was not even looking at the reference at this point. I was just following my intuition. Now that everything is on point, the last step is to, again, pick up your soft smudge brush and start adding more color, more pigmentation onto the petals, onto the leaves, wherever you want. Because the color right now is looking light, really light, and it's okay. Like, I needed to add some depth, as in the branches that I colored or that little vein thing on the petal I added details to, kind of now giving me guidance as to how much color I should now put in. But the first layer of color, the first step where we started adding color in a way where we already started painting the shadow and the highlight, is now giving us the guidance as to where to put more pigmentation and where to put lighter pigmentation, because we already have this first layer of color on to the canvas. I hope this is making sense, but this way it becomes really easy. The other way is to completely skip the filling in the color first part and just focus on adding details, like adding details to the branch, adding details to the veins of these petals, and then start coloring. It's gonna be the same result, but I like to do it this way. So yeah, I started doing that all across. I started adding more depth, more shadows wherever I felt I need to add. And again, because we already had that first layer of color, it was easy for me to determine where to put more color or more pressure and where not to put more pressure. I did the same thing on the petals, which are at the back side of the flower, and again with the darker color, and that actually made the leaves, which are on the front part, pop out a lot more, right? So again, once you start adding details, it's just going to guide you better as to how much color to put onto the painting. Once everything is done, it's looking really good. It's done. Like, you don't have to do anything right now. Like, it's done. But what I did, I went back to the petals layer. I went ahead and picked up hue, saturation, brightness setting, and I kind of increased the saturation of the petals just by 4%. I did the same thing for the leaves as well, and that's it. You don't have to do it. You can completely skip this step, but I sometimes like to do it just to make that color pop out a lot more if I think that the color is not looking as vibrant. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will be making a watercolor tutorial on Procreate using the free default brushes it comes with, but for now I just wanted to use my own brush pack. By the way, if you want to buy this brush pack or this watercolor kit, I will be linking it down in the description box below. Go check that out. I have this early bird discount going on till 26th of April, so grab yours right now if you want to, if you really liked what you saw, if you really like the brush I was using in this video. But apart from that, you can actually create the same painting using any watercolor brush as long as it has this pressure control feature in it. So I really hope you guys found this tutorial helpful. If you did, give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video.